We want to bring in Geoff Kimmerley. He's the Assistant Director of Communications for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You guys are in such a tough position right now because, of course, high school basketball, hockey, and cheerleading is on hold right now due to the pandemic, and the MHSAA is caught in the middle. How are you doing, Geoff?
We're hanging in there. We're working on this every day, as you can imagine, but we're hoping things will get everybody back out there here as soon as possible.
But there were a lot of lessons learned with the fall sports. And at the end of the day, fall sports were able to resume, and quite successfully as well. So were you and other members of the MHSAA caught a little off guard that winter sports were going to be put on hold?
Well, I think they're really not a comparable situation, honestly. We were able to pick up our final three sports, football and volleyball and Lower Peninsula girls swimming and diving, because of a rapid testing pilot program from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. And so that was the prerequisite for those athletes and teams to be able to compete. That isn't something that is available for winter sports. Obviously, we have far more teams that would be left compared to what we had a few weeks ago for the fall. Thousands more athletes, and MDHHS had told us, early on in the process that this was going to be a pilot test for fall sports. So we can't really compare the two. We can be really happy with the results of the pilot testing. 1% of the 5,300 participants who took part tested positive. Only 0.2% of the nearly 30,000 tests that were administered came back positive. Obviously, that shows that we can do things safely. But, because that testing program was there for those fall sports and not for the winter, it's hard to compare the two.
So with that, of course, the Let Them Play organization this morning, they did file the lawsuit. They have some pretty interesting points to make during this lawsuit. What are your thoughts about this topic?
Well, we're not involved in the lawsuit. We haven't been asked to be part of the lawsuit. We are working with our partners in education to talk directly to the decision makers. We've worked with MDHHS all along, over the course of the last really year now when it comes to COVID-19. We're going to continue to work with them. Obviously, we want to have our students out there playing as soon as possible. And we have other winter sports that are going, non-contact winter sports going full blast as we speak. We hope to get everybody else out there as soon as possible. But we have a different avenue to take to pursue that goal. And that's what we're doing from our standpoint.
So what we saw happen in the fall is there was a lot of stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. Do you anticipate having the same situation for some of the winter sports as well?
Hopefully not. Hopefully once we start those last few, wrestling included, we'll be able just to finish all the way through. We've already adjusted our dates so that we're finishing those sports in late March and early and mid-April, as opposed to early March and mid to late March. So we've already extended the time there to try and give those sports a longer season. Our sports that are going right now, skiing, alpine skiing has been going on its original schedule more or less since December. That's slated here to finish up in about 3 weeks. Boys and girls in the UP swimming and diving has been going. Bowling has been going. Girls gymnastics has been going. So we have no reason to think that there will be any delay there. We're hopeful once the other ones get started, we won't have to stop those either.
So I know that you had said that for some of the fall sports, they were able to play because of the pilot program. Even though there are more teams, it's the thought process that they can't have the same type of testing pilot program just because of a numbers game, because there are so many more players and so many more teams.
Well, that's really a question for the health department. The health department gave us the tests free of charge to the schools. We delivered them to the schools. But if that's something that can be done at a larger scale, that would be a question that they would have to answer. We just kind of served as the person to help the schools be able to put this together, and then the schools really took the ball and ran with it.
It's so hard because these decisions are being made, but in the same time, you have some of these students who, for many of them, they're concerned not just about the game today, but what this could mean for their future. Because for some of them, if they can't get into some of these outside leagues and teams, they can't play. And if they can't play, that means the loss of potential scholarships and them going to college. Does that part of this conversation factor into any of the talks that you're having with the health department at all?
Not our talk specifically. We don't focus on the college scholarship aspect of this. We have 60,000 athletes, and whether they go on to play after high school or they don't, all of them to us are just as important as the next. And we're here to advocate for all 60,000 of them. So we want them all to get on the court or on the mat because we want them to have a memorable high school experience. Understanding, of course, that, yeah, a lot of people are looking at that college future as well. And it's hard to say how something like this might affect that. But from our standpoint, we're looking at bringing them the high school experience. And so there may be that 1% or 2% that will go on to play in college. But we're considering all 100% of those 60,000 when we're working with our partners to make this happen.
So we keep hearing from the Whitmer Association or administration about the science and the data. Do they provide you and members of your team with science and data when they make these decisions, or are you learning this information along with us, the general public?
Well, we know that they're looking at metrics, of course. We've known that all along. We look at the metrics too. Every day at 3:00 or soon after, we are watching to see what the numbers are that day. So it's a matter of knowing which metrics we need to follow. And obviously with the pilot test, they provided us the opportunity to compile some data, and they've shared that data with us. And that's the data I shared with you just now on the success of that. And otherwise, we just know that we have to keep watching, and it's really not our decision to make. So the best we can do is continue to do our best and to work with not only the health department, but also superintendents associations and other administrators and coaches associations. That's the path that we're taking to hopefully bring these back as quickly as we can.
And so, Geoff, I kind of feel like you guys are caught in the middle between all of this. I couldn't imagine the phone calls you get, not only in your conversations with the health departments, but with the parents and the students, but the schools and the coaches as well. It's got to feel like a no-win situation some days.
Well, and we understand, though. I mean, the athletes that are not out there playing right now are eager to play, and we get it. We're eager to have them play. But we're doing everything that we can. And there's always a lot more going on than probably meets the eye. And we share that information with our schools as much as, as soon as we learn something, we pass it on. So, the great majority of the calls we get are what's the news today or what's happening today. Well, if there's something, we're going to let you know. Just right now, there hasn't been anything for the last few days. So like I said, we hope to bring the rest of the sports back as soon as possible. But at the same time, it's going to be as soon as we know, you guys will all know, everybody will know, and everybody will be very happy about it, I'm sure.
Do you guys have any conversations with other individuals, like in other states that are open and playing right now, such as Ohio, Wisconsin, Indiana, about some of the things that they're doing, the measures that they're taking as well?
Sure. Especially in the Midwest, the executive directors have a pretty active group where they can bounce ideas off of each other. Different sections of what we do within our office have similar groups, all the communications people, all the student services people, et cetera. But yes, when it comes to something like this, there definitely has been a lot of conversation between our executive director and other executive directors in the Midwest.
I know that some of the schools are pretty frustrated with things that are going on, especially when they see neighboring states allow for sports. I believe I read something where some Catholic schools were even considering leaving and join other leagues outside of the state of Michigan. Is there concern that some of these student athletes are going to say goodbye to high schools and try to join some of these travel teams? But then that leaves a huge gap as well for some of the students that can't afford them, because these traveling teams, they get expensive.
No, and that's a very true statement. Certainly, uh, there are more opportunities to do something like that if people are able to afford it. And yeah, for sure, we know that we have athletes in a variety of sports who have gone out of state. Not just in the last couple of months, but last summer, especially, into the fall as well. So that's not too surprising to hear examples of that. We hear those examples pretty frequently. But at the same time, when it comes to school sports, we hope to get those going soon. So that's the best we can do is continue to work for that. And trust me, we are spending every minute of every day, 7 days a week, working toward that goal.
I know it's got to be hard. So many of us adults, and we don't understand it because we're saying, hey, let's reopen the restaurants, the bars, and kids have to go back to in-person learning, but they can't play some of these sports when our numbers are lowest that they've been in weeks and even months. So, and we're hoping that our elected leaders and the doctors know more than we do, but sometimes it can be hard to understand their decision-making process. And again, not a lot that people such as yourself or anyone else can do about it. And that is really kind of one of the reasons behind the lawsuit that was filed this morning as well. So you guys have your hands full, that's for sure.
We do, but I think we feel as though we're making progress all the time on this. Obviously, it's not as quickly as everyone would like, but our football, if you look back even at the fall, football, volleyball, and swimming, yeah, they finished late. They finished in January. That was certainly a first and hopefully the last time that ever happens, but we were able to finish. And so we would just ask people to have faith that we're going to continue to make this happen. And we're going to have 3 seasons, and we're going to have 3 seasons to conclusion. We've said that from the beginning of this school year. Nothing has changed. And so far, we've been able to finish one of those, and we hope to now be able to do the same with the winter. And yeah, do we want it to happen months down the road? Of course not. We'd rather have it happen as soon as possible, and that's what we're working for.
Well, we appreciate your time and your effort, and I know so many of the parents and the student athletes do as well. Geoff Kimmerley with us. He's the Assistant Director of Communications for the Michigan High School Athletic Association.